Un petit voyage dans le temps, on va explorer les digues de Baie-Verte, Nouveau-Brunswick. OK, tout le monde ici, là, on va placer de la boiteau à Jacques. Prends ton bout, là. Normand, amène-moi ma masse. OK, c'est beau. Virant. Un virant. Oh. là. Parfait. Gérard. Normand, amène-moi ma hache. OK. Oui, les jeunes, un peu plus vite. Ah oui, un petit peu de boîte, cette là. OK. Hey! Amène ça ici. C'est beau. On prend 6 rangs. Un autre 6 rangs. OK. OK, tire un peu, là. OK. Lâche la chaîne. Amène ton beurre, cette là. Ah oui. Ah oui. OK. Amène-moi de la motte, là, quoi. Ça prend un autre 6 rangs ici. Oui, là. T'as besoin de quoi, Joseph, là? Amène. Petit gars, là, là-bas, là. Amène ta hache. OK. Mais bon petit gars, ça. Il travaille fort. Oui, les jeunes, un peu plus vite. T'es un bon parti pour ta fille, ça. Il travaille fort, le petit Louis, hein? Ah oui, c'est pas pire. Une boîte, cette là. OK. Hey, amène ça ici. C'est bon. On prend 6 rangs. Un autre 6 rangs. OK. Tiens. Good day, my name is Jean-Luc and I live in BAIE-VERTE in 2003 and I've explored extensively all the studded blue line area and a tiny bit in the dash area of Mason Beach. In those explorations, I found many traces of Acadian work. The village was between 1685 or 90 to 1755. So in this video, I will show you the most important find I made. And bon. Let's start at Beaver Park. We're gonna see the Fletcher Island, then move to Rusty Brook ABOITEAU, then a long walk on Beaver Road and the railroad track to reach the marsh, to arrive at the French Causeway. This is the French Causeway, all the way in the marsh toward Fort Gaspereau. And the crossroad, or the cattle road, that lead to a wharf. Then, walking on the French Causeway, we're going to see 3 more aboiteaux and the ice wall and the division between the sweet A, marsh, and the salty A. Then, following the river, we're going to go to the anchorage. This is where I believe the transfer of cargo was done, as there's no wharf deep enough to receive a supply vessel. From there, we're going to go toward Port Elgin, Monash Point. And back from Monash Point, we're going to follow the dugout toward the road of Moses Point. And this is the road. Now you are at George Dyke, following the post wall, arriving to the best part of the aboiteau, then following the post wall and 2 more aboiteaux, and then a little visit at Big Cove, And another little place also still visible close to Siddle Road. And that's the end of this tour. BAIE-VERTE River originally flowed around Fletcher Island. The French cut a channel across this narrow peninsula, and on it they built a mill, worked by tide, which furnished the lumber for the deck of the causeway. Around 1749 or 1750, and later the English settler rebuilt that installation, and it lasts up to about 1860, and the aboiteau itself lasts to about 1945. At that point, the doors were removed, and quickly the tide just destroyed the rest of this aboiteau. The rising sea level create many flood in BAIE-VERTE, and look at this picture. On the dark zone you can see the white line. Those are the Acadian dike that are still high enough to be above water, but not on that stormy day. L'Aboiteau de Rusty Brook, now called Mill Brook. From the park, we're going to follow the old river dike toward Rusty Brook, and you're going to see some sod and branches. By that time the door will have closed. From the park, I found the best way to get to the French Causeway is to follow the red dot line across the marsh, and the French Causeway is the green line. Between 1749 to 1754, the French built two forts. On the Bay of N.B was Fort Beauséjour, and on BAIE-VERTE side was Fort Gaspereau. Those two forts were joined by a road, and remain of that road still visible into the marsh. This road was called Chemin Nouveau, and on the English map it is called French Causeway. I'm touching history. I'm touching 1751, 1754. Amazing. That's the penny I put in the post last winter to document the post. This is French Causeway number 5. Okay, let's put one and one and one and one more. One more, here, one more. Un autre de plus.
Ah oui, mon Claude! Ah oui, mon Jean! Ah oui, mon François Arsenault! Puis mon Jacques Bignot! Ah ouais, Jean Cyr! Ah ouais, Jean Hébert, t'es capable? Et ah ouais, Jean-Jacques! Ah ouais, François Arsenault! Ah ouais, Pierre Gravois! Ah ouais, on est capable, on va leur montrer! Ah ouais, Pierre Cyr! Ah ouais, Abraham Poirier! Ah ouais, Jean Cyr! Ah ouais, Michel Cyr! Ah ouais! Ah ouais, Monsieur Ahmet! Ah ouais, Monsieur Cormier, Monsieur François Cormier! Allez-y! Ah ouais, Pierre Cormier! Ah ouais, François Leblanc!
Want to touch it? There you go. Acadian, 1750. Acadian work. Encore, ici, là. Ajoute la terre. This is the second aboiteau that I found in the marsh. And over the next 2 years, the shoreline degraded and piece of wood from the aboiteau start to fall in the water. So I recovered them and I reattached to the aboiteau with metal strapping. and stainless steel screws. And the door on it is 24 inches. And this here, I will add some posts in front of it to protect it better against the ice. Okay, I put a few strapping, a few screws. I know it's not the best, but just the idea is to gain some time. And I took a bunch of measurement, and it's time to go back now. And I came back there as the tide is rising, and I see the outline, and I cleaned it a little bit, touch it. I took a lot of measurement. Sorry for the mud fog. And it's perfectly preserved, not crack, not complete except for the roof. But I have to wait for a very low tide to be able to approach it and work much more easier than I did there. So here's the measurement, and here's the plan I made. There might be a few mistakes because it was hard to take the measurement underwater, but that's what it basically looked like.
Tree that was finishing pointy both ends. The groove is not perfectly square. There's a curve at one end. For the door, I check and I see 1 inches and ½ inches in the bottom for the stop for the door. Fait que le bois est pas mal solide encore. Demain, on va couper ici. On va élargir pour faire les joues. Aujourd'hui, je vais juste finir un petit morceau qui me dépasse. Ok, il y a un nœud ici, là. Une branche. There you go. This one is a straight channel. The shoulder. In this case, there's no need for a deep groove for the pin of the valve or clapet because the door floats on top here, like this. Okay, and it goes against the shoulder. So when this is installed and put in place, the first thing they put on is the roof. And it doesn't need to be pinned very hard, just 2 pins for alignment, and that's plenty good because the earth will keep the roof in place. It's done. You put your door in place, then you put your spacer. So now you see the door is trapped into that space right here. Let's put the other one in place too. Okay, there's the door, trap. And then you put the inspection roof. So when they need to check that door, they just remove the big rock on top of this, a short section, they can take this out and get the door out, and they can change the door, and then put back the inspection roof. Yeah. Okay, and the last pin this way. There you go. Okay. And the door is in there, and there's no leak because this roof here overlap this, and the earth finish about here or here. You can take some earth off if you need to. and a big rock sit on top of that. So next time they come to inspect that aboiteau, this section is under the dike, but this is covered by a big rock, and all you have to remove is the inspection roof, and that gives you access to your door inside. This will be the exact copy of a real door, and you can see that the real aboiteau is much bigger than the one I made with that drifting post.
I call this place the Grand Aboiteau. This is a wide opening, and it took me many years to figure this one out, and that's what it most likely looked like in the past, based on the rock pile from on both ends and the center, and the discovery of two aboiteaux, and everything matched the alignment of the French causeway. At high tide, a chaloupe can sail there to unload their cargo. In the spring, it happened a few times. There's ice drifting against the shore, and I think the Acadian put those posts to prevent their field to be damaged by those big field of ice. And you can see that what happened in 2010. The ice, the water level was high enough that the ice just float above the marsh and arrived in BAIE-VERTE and broke many posts and structure in the park. This long dike divides the natural field, the marsh, on the riverside, and the Grand Pré, or the Foin Doux, the Sweet A, toward the inland.
Last dike, there was no dike over there, no post, so here's the dike.
The drainage of that section has been modified and blocked, I think, for the purpose to keep the water level high for duck hunting. That was done many years ago. All the earthwork and dike and trenches you see on those older pictures, many things have changed since, and the sea level also is rising. And if you want my advice, do not venture in the marsh when you know the tide will be rising. I got myself in trouble many times, but I knew my way out. So it's not a picnic area place, it's a marsh, and the tide is tricky. Thank you. The best time to visit the marsh is in early spring because there's no hay to hide the drainage and the different danger caused by the erosion. In the summer, boating and kayaking is the way to see those work, but you have to respect the tide table. Please read the tide table and have a good visit. This is my estimation what kind of hay was growing in different marshes around BAIE-VERTE. I know the sweet hay was favorite for the cattle, and the salty hay was also good for the winter time. So this is a guess here, but I'm probably very close to it. This is the most far away site I visited. With 3 battery and electric engine, that is 6 kilometers, which means total is 12. And one time I came back rowing half of the way back. By the time I went to Monash Point, I've already explored Danks Point extensively, and I was so surprised to see the similarity between the two sites. The post disposition, the drainage, the size of the sod, and their placement. So I'm totally convinced it was a Acadian work. And it probably late Acadian, as we know, is documented that many families went to live near the fort, and they would call them the Acadian refugee. And so this site is most likely about 1749-50 up to 1755. The river is too shallow to unload vessel in BAIE-VERTE. I think the cargo was most likely transferred into smaller chaloupe at that location and sailed toward Monash Point via a small dredge channel. Le bâtiment que nous montions s'avança jusqu'à une petite demi-lieue en deçà du fort de Gaspereau. Aussi échoua-t-il sur la vase à marée basse. Our boat sailed past the Fort Gaspereau for a small half-league and went aground on mud at low tide. To bring the cargo they just unloaded toward Moses Point. It took me many years to prove that one, but at a very low tide, I made it there, and I was able to see the channel at low tide. I put my boat in, and it led me right toward the next feature on Moses Point, a road built most likely in 1746-47. This road and dike goes all around that little bay of Moose Point right to Danks Point. The Danks Point side is all post because of the ice drift, and this section of Moses Point is a raised road using material that was taken from the ditch on each side. On the river side, there's a lot of erosion, and I couldn't find any post. The posts start when you reach the end of that road before you engage toward Danks Point. Sometimes the sea level is so high that I can navigate right over the islands. And this island have many birds and bird nests, and one day I saw the eggs floating. So I picked it up and I tried to put it back in the little nest, but I don't know if that worked. Now we are arriving at the impressive stuff. There was a wall of posts from the end of the little bay of Moses Point up to Danks Point. It's unbelievable, but there were posts side by side for all that distance to protect the dike. From the picture my neighbor took, this wall of posts was pretty much continuous and fairly solid until about 1970. At that point, the sea level has risen enough to start to bring a surf wave and drift ice field right to the post line and knock everything off. This is the best preserved section of that dike. What you see there is what is gone before it and what is gone after it. This dike is almost complete as original. You'll see the post wall, you see the dike itself, the dugout channel or the quarry, and the land on the seaside. As long as this land on the seaside is there, those posts will stay in place. When the land on the seaside disappear, then the wave hit directly the post, and at a storm like Dorian, those posts are knocked off. And the dike will fall apart shortly after. Danks Point is the site that I explored the most. It is a hard site to reach because you need a high tide. And when the tide is high, it will turn around pretty quickly and you can be aground. So each of my visits were very short, like an hour short. And one day I decided, no, I'm going to sail at about 7 in the morning, looking for a tide low at 11, 12, or 1, and then come back when the tide rises, and that will bring me back into Baie-Verte with the current. And this is when I start to see things, when I start to see lines in the ground, and I start to understand
the extent of that point before the erosion. I had no idea that one day a storm will take those posts away. And they've been there forever, you know. So each visit, they were there. And one day I decided, you know what, I like to mark some, you know, at least a few posts, because there was so many. Tagging was a big job. So I decided to tag a few posts. And then about a week after, no, it was 2 weeks after, the storm arrived, and that was a regret. I should have finished the job.
29.
There was a few posts on the beach by the time I got to Danks Point to explore, and I thought if I put a tag on it, that would give me the direction of the drift of those storms. And so I was not in a rush because they've been there for so long. But in overnight, that wall you see in those pictures, gone. There's only a few posts left now. Since 2019, many more posts disappeared. They get waterlogged pretty quickly. They end up on the beach covered by seaweeds. They end up in the marsh and they sink in the marsh. But I was able to recover about 10 over the years, and I have recycled 2 of them into a replica of ABOITEAU.
Okay, gonna bring you home, buddy. The way to do it is take you aboard or tow you. I'm gonna take you aboard. Okay. So I took aboard a post. Time to go home.
Some were just too heavy. So what I used to do is drag them to the shoreline, bring them up high on the beach, and about a week, 2 weeks after, go get them, and they have lost at that point a lot of water. And I can manage them back on the boat and back home into my barn. I found that the best for me to survey this place was to go early in the morning at the falling tide. The tide will bring me toward Danks Point, and I will save a lot of my batteries. And at noon, the tide will be low, about noon, a few times in the summer. Now there was no wall to follow anymore, and no dike to follow, but there were traces in the clay. And with the kite and satellite picture combined, I was able to find where this is leading to. And on many trips, the water was not low enough to follow the lines into the water. So this is when the kite became very handy. do it. Oh, it worked. See? Now you get the camera up. Keep walking. Take the picture you can. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh. Keep walking. Running. I want to take a picture over the place I like, so I have to bring the camera in the right position. Woo. Thank you. Now,
then the post line turned sharply toward the bay, and I thought they were trying to build a jetty to go to deeper water, but after many years of overlapping charts, old picture, maps, I realized that we are losing, we have lost a lot of shoreline, and they were just following the shoreline to include the best of it. And since 1880, there's about 220 feet of shoreline that is gone, and only remain of that shoreline is that faint line in the clay where the posts were.
Okay. There's a post right here. Post right here. Post. Post. Post.
I found trace of the wall here. There was a dike here, and I think that the wall, we know, extended here. We see the post, a few holes here, more posts here. Okay, so it was probably something like that. And out a bit more here. So now the line indicates they were trying to circle as much land as possible, and that point of land will brought them to deeper water by a few feet. So I'll revise my first model, and I will include more land on the left side. That area today is totally eroded. On the right side of the picture, it's still clay, so the line is visible on that side. But on the left side, there's not much left. It's just gravel and rock. There is so much erosion on the thinnish side that it's very hard to follow traces of post, dike. So it's a guessing game, but with the maps, it was helpful. I think I did it. Yeah, I did it. Banks Point is exposed to storm and ice, and it's amazing how long those dike survives. I found my first aboiteau. It's a carved aboiteau at Banks Point,
A few years ago, the ice took this aboiteau and it drifted away, gone forever. And you see the groove right here, and there's a peg right here. And this is carved. See how nice it's done? Banks Point is exposed to storm and ice movement, and it lost 220 feet since 1880. And there's features there that were there for many years, like this old aboiteau. It's gone now. But on that same day, I found a little piece of wood, and when I removed the sand, woohoo! I was walking back to the boat, and I found this new one, complete. The dado is in good shape, the roof still on it, and the clapet is inside. And this is a reproduction. I made a styrofoam of the clapet, and those are the plan. I've been covering the aboiteau with rocks for the past 3 years. I'm going back this spring of 2025, and I really hope that the ice did not damage the stone protection. And if it's still there, good news. We have to work on it this year. I tried to get the interest of a licensed archaeologist for past 3 years, but so far no luck. On each side, the beach went down for about 3 inches. The sand and clay just are washed out by the wave, and now this, without the rock, it will be gone by today. But with the rock, there's a chance it's still there in the springtime. Over the years, at each trip at Banks Point, I took a lot of kite picture, a lot of measurement, a lot of picture of the dike, and it's amazing. When I think I've seen everything, another storm comes, and there's more discovery to do, like this quarry, for example. But all those features in the clay, they don't last very long. After a few years, they're erased, but I'm very glad I took so many pictures. Last two sides don't suffer from the wave or the ice erosion. They just, when the water comes in, it dilutes all the work, and slowly the trenches disappear. But on a satellite picture, they're quite visible in LiDAR too. Another example of Acadian work that is not eroded by the ice or the wave, but when the sea comes in there, it flat down the Acadian work, and on the side you look around and there's no elevation left, but it's still there, and the LiDAR satellite picture can show you the depression. Following the dike, there's not much left of it, but when you arrive at that site, you look around and it's very hard to define where things are. But after some good search, I was able with my shovel to detect the wood underneath, and I think the wood is the sloughs on that location.
So there's a sluice of wood there, but look, this is where the reality look like. It's pretty elusive. Well, thank you for watching, and the tour is finished, and it's time to go back to the park.
Puis, avez-vous aimé ça, visiter les aboiteaux de baie-verte? Hein? C'est le fun, hein? C'est encore là. C'est encore là. Puis si vous voulez les voir, ben Jean-Luc, il va vous le montrer. Puis si vous voulez savoir comment on les faisait, il va vous faire un autre paquet d'images. Ça, c'est la prochaine affaire qu'il va faire pour vous montrer comment on lui a montré à lui comment on les faisait.